Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 42nd episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So going back over to the Big Apple, we have a legendary group that I actually covered in my initial first few videos, A Tribe Called Quest. For me, Tribe fits into a similar category in my head that Outkast does, at least in terms of their discographies. Both don't have any music that's worth completely skipping. Even the least popular projects by either one are hardly ever called bad. Hopefully, Outkast at some point can have a proper send off album the way that Tribe did with Thank You for Your Service, but I think that's a bit unrealistic to expect. Another similarity they share is how, sort of like Jay-Z, virtually no two fans are going to have the same lineup when it comes to their ranking of the albums. With Outkast, I've seen all sorts of different orders for worst to best rankings, with many putting ATLians or Aquemini at the top. But over the last few years, I've also seen a growing number of fans rank Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music, the debut, as their favorite album. One other group that comes to mind where their best album isn't agreed on across the board would be De La Soul. I think historically the debut took the top spot for most people, but over the years their other work has had more time to kind of marinate and grow on fans, especially their 90s output. Personally, my favorite De La album is De La Soul is Dead, which you could probably tell from how early I talked about it, but I would never be mad at anyone who put 3 Feet High and Rising as their favorite. Same with Balloon Mind State or Stakes is High. With A Tribe Called Quest, from what I can tell, Midnight Marauders and Low End Theory are pretty much as highly regarded as an album can possibly be. For the most part, you could just flip a coin on which of the two classics any given fan prefers. Even with top album lists or rankings for the Tribe discography, they alternate between which masterpiece they prefer constantly. It's a rare thing in hip hop or even just music where everybody who loves one album loves the other, and then it becomes just a case of which LP is more perfect. Personally, I've never heard of a Low End Theory fan not enjoying Midnight Marauders or vice versa, because if you get what one is going for and connect with the sound, it's almost guaranteed you'll have a similar experience for the other one. For me, I've always slightly preferred Low End Theory, mainly just through personal bias. But that doesn't lessen the impact of Midnight Marauders, nor does it mean that it isn't flawless as well. While Low End Theory has a feel and aesthetic that's a bit darker, more dusty, and baseline centered, Midnight Marauders is colorful and diverse, but at the same time keeping that jazzy, nocturnal sound that they would continue to explore on their 1996 album Beats, Rhymes, and Life. As I mentioned in my Illmatic video, 1993 was one of the top years in the existence of hip hop. I think a decent amount of people would argue that it's the very best. I'm not going to name every classic from that year because there's way too many, and I showed an extensive amount in my Nas video, but some of the heavy hitters that Midnight Marauders had to compete with include Wu-Tang's debut, Balloon Mind State, Black Moon's debut, Freestyle Fellowship's second album, Eazy-E's It's On Dr. Dre, and Lethal Injection. However, as enjoyable and acclaimed as those and many other LPs from that year are, you'll practically never see Midnight Marauders outside the top 2 for best rap album of 1993. Of course, the one album preventing it from grabbing that top spot 100% of the time is Enter the 36 Chambers, but I still think a good amount of hip hop heads would actually take Midnight Marauders over 36 Chambers. It just comes down to personal preference. One thing I feel like Tribe has excelled with for almost every release is setting the tone with amazing opening tracks. Whether it's Steve Biko Stir It Up for Midnight Marauders, Excursions from Low End Theory, Phony Rappers from Beats, Rhymes, and Life, or even the Space Program on their final album, they never fail to draw you in and set the stage for an unforgettable experience. In the case of Steve Biko's Stir It Up, the first thing you hear are these rich horns that quickly change into a killer beat flip, but that isn't actually the first thing you hear when you put the album on. It comes in right after the short intro track, which features a dope skit where the woman talking almost sounds like she's coming through an answering machine, and they add this kind of eerie pause in between each word she says. She gives us some insight on the meaning of the album title, and she returns a few more times throughout, which not only helps the pace, but it plays into the journey this album creates really well. As with virtually every Tribe album, on the production side of things, it's mostly handled by Q-Tip and Ali Shaheed Muhammad, but there are two beats on here made by outside producers, those being Skep Anselm and Large Professor. Large Pro is also one of the handful of features on this thing, the others being Trugoy the Dove of De La Soul, who unfortunately passed away last year, Busta Rhymes, and Raphael Wiggins. Another accolade this album has accrued over the years would be having one of the dopest album covers out there, which personally I feel like you could say for Low End Theory as well. I actually slightly prefer that one, as you could probably tell. But that's only because it's probably a top three favorite album cover for me in hip hop at all. Midnight Marauders would definitely be top 10 because it keeps a similar dope design to Low End Theory, but it adds an extra layer by putting in a good couple dozen faces of hip hop legends in the background. It's something I feel like we could use a lot more of today, but the fact it isn't done more often makes this cover stand out even more. It proves that Native Tongues weren't some elitist crew of snobs who turned their noses up to any hip hop that wasn't Afrocentric and conscious. It was more like, hey, we love what you guys are doing and it's super dope. We just have a movement of our own that's a little different. You never hear people like Q-Tip or Questlove putting down entire scenes because they understand that hip hop being so universal is one of the things that makes it so special. Not that this is an entirely different world of subjects, mind you. 8 Million Stories is a perfect example of how the members of Tribe faced the same trials and tribulations the other rappers did, which is highlighted through the number of situations Fight Dog runs through. They cover all their bases sonically too, so there's something here for everyone regardless of your sound palette. For a classic this colorful and diverse, I have to give some honorable mentions for favorite songs like Midnight, Clap Your Hands, Oh My God, Keep It Rollin', The Chase Part 2, and Lyrics to Go. But my three favorites for this masterwork would have to be Award Tour, 8 Million Stories, and Electric Relaxation. Thank you for watching my 40-second video. Next time, I'm going to head over to the South and pull one of the top contenders they have to offer. So be sure to check for that, as well as like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs off Midnight Marauders are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? All right.